All right. What's good, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Docs Outside the Box. I don't know the number of the episode that we're on because we are batching these episodes. So we are somewhere in the 300s. I think
we're at 311. I think this is episode 311.
You think this is 311?
Yes, it's on the calendar.
Okay, so this is episode 311. You know I don't follow that calendar that much, but welcome to episode 311. I am your host, Dr. Nii. I am joined by...
Dr. Renee.
There you go. And this is Docs Outside the Box, guys. This is a fusion of money, medicine, and pop culture. Listen, shout out to everybody on YouTube. Still, once again, we're continuing to increase our subscriber count, and I'm really trying to increase the amount of subscribers, the amount of people who are viewing our podcast through YouTube. And by all accounts, YouTube is doubling down. They're putting more resources into making podcasts a little bit more discoverable on YouTube.
Oh, that's good.
So we are trying to increase our visibility.
Let's take advantage of that.
Yes, indeedy.
What's up, YouTube?
Yes, indeedy. And in terms of the folks who are listening to us traditionally on podcasts, on Spotify, Google, I don't know why I'm even mentioning Google. Ain't nobody, like we get like on a monthly basis, like 200 views or 200 listens. So not that many people are listening on
Google Play
Google Podcasts. The majority of everybody is listening either on Apple or they're listening on Spotify or something that utilizes Apple Podcasts. So that might be iHeartRadio, TuneIn, any of those other services.
Okay.
So what's up with y'all? Thank you very much.
We shouldn't leave out the Google Podcast people.
That includes me because I listen to all my podcasts through Google Podcasts, but if you look at the numbers don't lie.
Man, shout out to the people on Google Podcasts. Stop playing. Stop playing. Don't be hating on people who listen through Google.
Well, if you're on Google Podcasts, you need to do a better job of letting other people know that they should listen through Google Podcasts. Because right now the stats show that ain't nobody listening through Google Podcasts when you compare it to other things. But hey, we appreciate y'all. And listen, also let's push this survey. We need more people to fill out this survey with InCrowd. Remember, if you go to the show notes and you click on "We want to hear from you," there is a link to fill out a survey through. You good?
I'm good.
There's a link to. You sure you good?
I'm good.
All right. There's a link to fill out a survey, a very short survey that allows us to know, for the most part, who you are, a little bit of your demographics, and the type of topics that you want to hear and topics that you don't want to hear so that we can fine tune and provide better episodes, better topics, things that are more relevant to you so that you don't just kind of look at what we have and then you tune out after 5 minutes. All right.
I would hope they wouldn't tune out after 5 minutes.
Well, but that's the point. If they are listening, they see the topic and then they listen and are like, I don't like this. And then they leave after 5 minutes. What are we doing here? Right.
So that means we need to be more engaging within the first 5 minutes.
Either that or we need a topic that's engaging.
Yeah. Well, then if it's within the first 5 minutes and it's engaging, then they'll stay.
Well, then that's kind of like false advertising, right? Because we're like, hey, what's going on, yo? You stay for 5 minutes and then we start talking about some boring ass subject. They gonna tune out. So whether they tune out and it's engaging or tune in because it's something that's compelling, I'd rather people tune in because it's compelling. Don't you think so?
Can't we make it
Audience,
compelling?
What y'all think? Audience, what do you think? Am I right? As always, am I always right?
But can't we make it compelling and engaging at the same time? Like, I don't understand.
But you didn't give me an opportunity to talk about that. You just said it should be boring and exciting. I'm like,
what? What are you talking? Are you, Alfred? Rewind what he just said.
You just said it should be boring and exciting. Everyone, make sure you fill out the in-crowd survey so that we're not as confused as you hear her as confused right now, guys. All right.
I have no clue what's going on this podcast.
Real quick, let's move on. Come on, you got to keep up with the pace, or we're trying to get this podcast done. Come on. So the pace of this is, I want to give a shout out to those who've been listening to the podcast, particularly those who I've worked with. There's been a couple of people who've tweeted me or texted me or have reached out to me in some form or fashion and say, hey, we used to work together at X, Y, and Z. Either, I'm surprised that you're still doing the podcast, or, I'm excited at how well the podcast has grown.
I didn't think you had it in you.
And I start to think, I'm like, damn, did I talk about this person on the show? Because I be talking about people on the show. So if you're listening, just know that if we're talking about bad situations, I'm Am I talking about them?
What do you? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Do I talk about my coworkers? I don't think I talk about my coworkers at all.
Of course, you don't talk about your coworkers,
or even my former coworkers.
No.
Yeah. So
and usually, well, if you do, it's usually not in a bad light.
Is it? I don't know.
No, it's usually. I mean, you talked about the PA who, did the.
I checked my Cash App. I didn't get any money from him.
You checked your Cash App, and he didn't Cash App you.
Yeah.
For that advice. Probably because you're not actually supposed to be giving official advice on finances. So don't come for us in these streets because
we're supposed to. We can give advice. We just have to let people know.
Disclaim it, right? That's what I mean. So that's why.
No,
I want to know. You didn't get Cash App though.
I want to know if I am, because over the last 6 years, invariably, I've had to bring up a situation that involved people who I've worked with, and then the mic is a little too far from you.
No, it's not. It's fine.
Because when you turn your head towards me, then it's not. So can you bring your microphone a little bit closer to you?
Goodness.
Yeah. There you go. Now we're talking.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
the mic police over here.
Well, we got to make
Officer Mike.
We got to make sure that we have a really good audio experience and so forth. So
okay, Officer Mike.
So for those who are listening, who I've actually worked with, who I've gone to school with, like I said, every now and then I get a text saying that, hey, they listen. So just want y'all to know it's not impersonal. If you hear something that's similar or dramatized version of something that you've gone through, but it's,
gang.
It's the truth, But anyway, I just want to give a shout out to all these people. But let's jump into this. This is Money Trap number 6.
Mm-hmm.
In this episode, we're going to be talking about why it's important to invest, right?
Yeah. Money Trap number 6, which is part of the series of the 11 money traps that keep doctors burnt.
There you go. Now you're
out.
Engaged. Rather than fighting me on the microphone, you could be keeping up with what we're talking about on the show.
Anyway. So, money trap number 6 that keeps doctors burnt out is not investing enough or
investing in risky shit.
Very, very risky business.
Shit.
So okay, fine. So what say you about this?
Well, I always like to start from a baseline. So, everybody, talks about, how much doctors make. And I think a lot of times some people will, invariably look at what we talk about, particularly people who aren't in the medical world, and we're like, well, why are you guys always talking about like finances, and why are you always talking about things that?
Because doctors be broke as a joke sometimes.
But I think a lot of people don't believe that from the outside looking in,
or
they look at it as first world problems, right?
Well, I mean, it could be first world problems.
That's like trying to hear like a woe is me story from someone who won $1 million or I don't know $500 million in a lottery, and then they go broke. It's like, yo, that's your bad, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, listen, let's not pretend that this might not be first world problems, but the first world still got problems, right? So, I mean, the reality is that, the reality is that a lot of people who do go into medicine don't come from, they don't come from first world problems, right? Like,
wait, you said what?
They don't come from first world problems.
Who?
A lot of people who go into medicine in this country, they don't come from, issues.
That's not what the stats show. The majority.
No. I said a lot of people, right? Like you and me, we didn't come from first world problems.
I didn't come from first world problems.
Oh, I did? Please, whatever.
Park Slope, Brooklyn.
I didn't grow up in Park Slope. What are you talking about? Yo, it's East New York. Don't get jumped in these streets. Do not get jumped in your own studio, yo.
You said you grew up in Bedford Heights?
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, East New York. Don't play me. Don't play me, yo. So anyway, but yeah, there are people who, are in medicine, people like you and me, who don't necessarily come from, a certain or a high socioeconomic status, right? And so we are entering this realm of at least high earning income, right? And all of a sudden we're thrown into this tax bracket or income bracket, and we don't know quite what that means. We don't quite know how to maximize that, right? We just know that we're in it. And so I think that's important to understand. Like, yeah, some of this is first world problems, but first world got problems.
Right.
Maybe not everybody in the first world, but,
So basically you're setting like the baseline of, it's like a come up almost.
Yeah.
I agree. So I think basically what you're saying is that people look at this like it's a come up. There's certain people, I know I did, right? I saw the career fulfillment. I saw the esteem that becoming a physician would bring. And then I also saw that, look, like, I didn't look at it as a comfortable lifestyle. I was like, oh man, I'm about to be rich, right? And I think that when you put things in perspective, right? Because we've talked about how the dream of becoming a doc and what the reality of being a doc is that, it's not all roses. It's not pearly, whatever it is. It's not great, all the time. It's an amazing, fulfilling, rewarding career, but it has its potholes and so forth, as with any career.
Right.
So I brought out this calculator. It's a New York income tax calculator 2021. Right. And basically this calculator, you put in your income, you put in your filing status, and then you put in the state that you live in, and it'll let you know what your after tax income is. Right. So what I did is I put in $350,000. Filing status, I put married. The state, I put New York. Total income tax, $96,000, which brings your after tax income to $253,994,000.
Which is pretty significant.
Right. So I just want everybody to recognize $350,000 if you live in New York is going to get you after tax of $253,994,000.
And this is income tax. So pretty much anybody who's W-2 or getting some sort of paycheck.
Yeah. If you get a paycheck and you live in New York and you make $350,000, and if you're filing married, and I think I put down how many? Did I put down?
Dependents?
2 dependents if you got 2 kids. Let's change the numbers real quick. If you put it to 1, man. What did I say? 253 something?
Yeah, it's the same.
I think it saves you like $500 if you have like.
It's pretty much the same. It's almost $100,000 worth of taxes either way.
But have more kids.
Well, part of the reason that I'm saying that is, to distinguish between those who own their own business versus, those who are strictly W-2 and employed, right? Because once you start talking about owning your own business, being either 1099.
Why are you making it complicated?
I'm not making it complicated, but I think that people need to understand.
All right, I'm talking about if you are employed.
Okay,
and
but you need to say that.
Well, if you're employed and you get a paycheck and you W-2, you bring home about $253,000, right? If you live in New York, if you're married, if you have 2 dependents, right? So basically,
and your salary is $350,000.
And the reason I'm mentioning that is basically it's going to take you about 10 years to save $2 million, right? But the one thing that we didn't account for is with that amount, you're probably living with your mother.
Why are you living with your mother?
Did I talk about rent or mortgage? Nope.
But wait.
So you ain't got no place to live, right? That's not including place.
Wait. So you're saying if you spent the 10 years saving $2 million, then you're living with
you got to be living with somebody because you ain't paying rent. You ain't paying no mortgage.
Gotcha.
Right? So that's what I'm saying. So $253,000, everybody's like, bet, I'm good. But like we got to start talking about how much you paying in rent. If you live in New York City, particularly, right, where rents are anywhere between $300 and $3,000 and maybe $5,000, $6,000, right? If you want a closet, right? If you want some cabinets above your stove, right? If you don't want the apartment that looks like, remember the apartment from Coming to America with the dead body? Damn shame what they did. Hey, Alfred, hook it up. It's a damn shame what they did to that blind man. Damn shame what they did to his dog too, right? Put that in there, right here. Hook it up. Right? But if you want an apartment that's for real, like on the come up, we talking about like you're gonna be paying like three G's, 3 stacks, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7, right?
It's possible
per month.
It's possible.
Mortgage,
right? About
so,
the same, maybe. Yeah.
So that's decreasing that total amount you have. We didn't mention food.
Right.
We didn't mention utilities.
Right.
We didn't mention car.
Right.
Well, if you live in New York City, you probably don't need a car.
You probably don't.
But how many doctors are really driving, or how many doctors are really taking a train to the hospital?
Ooh, that's a good question, actually.
If you live in New York right now, text us. It's in the show notes, the number.
Yeah. Do you have a car? We want to know. If you live in New York City, any of the 5 boroughs, we want to know, do you have a car? So text us, Alfred. Go ahead and hook up the number right here and let us know. Let us know guys, if you have a car and you live in New York City.
I bet you not many do.
Yeah.
I bet you a bunch of them drive. I think
You think so?
I think a lot of them scared to take the train.
Why? Why would people be scared to take the train?
I don't know. I just think a lot of them scared to take the train.
I think a lot of people actually take the train.
You think a lot of doctors take the train?
Yeah.
They're willing to get there at like 4:55, 6 in the morning, or 5 in the morning?
Maybe not.
Okay. I don't think that many people. Hey, if I'm wrong, let me know if I'm wrong. But I doubt the majority of you guys are taking a train to work. And you have to be there that early and then you leave that late. I just don't think that's happening.
Okay.
I think there are some who are dedicated to doing it, but I don't think that many are.
We shall see.
I think the majority are driving in.
We shall see.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's miscellaneous, like things that you just got to live, right?
Right.
Things that you do to live. You get your haircuts, you get your hair done, or go to the movies, or hang out with people. And so basically what I'm trying to say is that $253,000, that's not real, right? That's not what you're really going to keep, unless you're living with your mother, right? And if that's the case, you're living with your mother for 10 years, you got other issues going on, right?
No, not necessarily.
Would you date a guy who 10 years into their career has been living with their mother but has $2.5 million?
It depends.
Is that what you're going to be attracted to? The $2.5 million?
Anyway, it depends on why he's living with his mother.
See, I think this is the reason. This is part of the reason why sometimes I don't like potting with you, because I feel like sometimes you're not being real.
Whatever.
I guess I got to be real.
Go ahead, be real.
Because I have a hard time thinking that anybody would be dating somebody else who's living with their
Where
parent
were you living
over
after
10
you
years.
finished your critical care fellowship?
I was living with my parents for a year.
Whatever.
Not even.
Whatever.
Maybe 2 years.
Yeah, and then you lived with me. See?
Yeah, but I don't think. See, I think you're faking it. I don't think you're being real. I don't think you would date a guy or whatever. I don't think you'd take any person seriously who was living with their parents for that long.
What if he's taking care of his mother?
I don't think you would take someone seriously if they were living
What
with
if he were taking care of his mother? What if he were his mother's primary caregiver?
Okay, so if that was the case, then what would you think?
What do you mean? What would I think?
What would you think? Give
If his mother is sick and he's taking care of his mother, like, I don't understand. Like, what would you want me to think? Oh, that's horrible.
I don't know. Would you date a guy who was the primary caretaker of his mother?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Would you take care of a guy? Would you go with a guy who wasn't the primary caretaker of his mother, was just living with his mother in his basement?
Maybe.
You're lying. So anyway, the other thing that we forgot to mention, obviously, is you should have figured it out, because we talked about rent, food, utilities, car, miscellaneous. What's the last thing we can talk about? And stop looking at my notes. Thanks.
Investment, savings and investment.
Nope. Student loans.
Oh, please.
So listen, that 253 is probably like maybe 190 at the end, maybe 180.
If you paying it.
Right? And then, like we also mentioned, you're not investing and so forth. That's a problem. So I think that the reason why I put that as the baseline is that it's going to take you a long time to get to that point where you would consider yourself a millionaire. Right. Or at least someone who feels like maybe they can kind of take a step back and not maybe work so hard because they are a millionaire or a multimillionaire. It takes a lot of work. It is stressful as fuck being a doctor. And I'm going to be really honest, right? And working 10 years in now, I'm like, damn, like if we don't have anything to show for it, appreciable, it's a little bit of a disappointment, right? Because there's a lot of sacrificing that you have to do. Physical sacrifice, mental sacrifice, maybe even a little bit of some isolation depending on, where in the country you live and so forth. So you damn sure better be getting paid well, or what you think is a really good salary, and that you should be keeping a majority of this salary because, at the end of the day, like you don't want to be that 70-year-old surgeon who's still operating and saying, oh, I just can't give it up. It's like, you lying. You can't give it up because you paying for some other stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, stop lying. Like 70 years old and you still doing lap choles. Shut up. Like, I don't believe that at all.
It's possible, Nee. It's
pissing off somebody right now.
Oh, you definitely pissing us. Look at your downloads. Put a down arrow, Alfred.
Can you stop talking, Alfred? Me and Alfred have that special relationship.
No.
Once again, please. Thank you. So basically what I'm just trying to say is that investing is really important, right? Making your money work, having your money do the hard work for you while you, quote unquote, everybody says sleep, or in this case, while you're
working,
while you're in clinic, or while you're operating, you need your money to do things that you just can't just get from
give your money a 9 to 5.
Right. So recently, I don't know if folks are aware of this, but LeBron James, I think 7 months ago it was confirmed that he's a billionaire. The majority of his money, over 50% of his money, came from things outside of what he does on the basketball court.
Right. So he's not shutting up and dribbling.
No, he's not shutting up and dribbling.
Right.
And we've seen this in some of these other, whether they're athletes or
musicians,
music artists,
yeah,
or people who are in tech or what have you. Like you very rarely see, well, maybe in tech, you see that their net worth is like exploded, mainly because of what they own or what they do or the intellectual property that they have. But like with LeBron James, it's still very shocking. Like you see these big ass contracts and it's just like, you're not a billionaire from that? And you're like, no, they're not actually.
Yeah.
It's the, making Space Jam and it's getting paid to produce Space Jam, the royalties from that. It's, having a little bit of ownership in Manchester United. It's getting, one of the first people to invest in Beats,
right?
By Dre, and getting in all of those dividends, and I think that's really impressive.
Yeah,
I think
it's
really
not
impressive.
it's not by dragging yourself to work every single day, even if you are an NBA star who signs multiples of millions of dollar contracts. Like even in that, you're not necessarily a billionaire. So the question, I think that what we're trying to bring home is that, dragging yourself to work every day is not necessarily the thing that's going to make yourself a millionaire. Right. Not necessarily. Right. And certainly not within a short period of time.
Do you think that and the reason I bring this up is sometimes I think it's fair to have this conversation. Do you think we reduce being in the medical field to just money all the time?
No, I don't think so, because we talk a lot about time, right? We talk a lot about time. We talk a lot about energy. The fact that we're even talking about this, right? 11 money traps that keep doctors burnt out, right? The operative word here, or the operative phrase here is not money traps. The operative phrase here is burnt out. Right. And so, we look at money as a tool. Right. And so that any tool that you use is supposed to facilitate something. Right. It's supposed to make something easier. Right. If you need to turn a lug nut, you can't turn it with your finger, you're going to get a wrench. Right. The wrench is supposed to make it easier. But if you misuse the wrench, if you put it on the wrong way, or you start turning it, righty-tighty instead of lefty-loosey, then you're not facilitating taking off this lug nut. What you're doing is you're expending a lot of energy doing something that doesn't work. And so I think this series, of the money traps that keep doctors burnt out is, listen, you have this tool, but many of us don't know how to use the tool in order to facilitate this thing we call life. Right? We're not necessarily using it or optimizing it. And it's not because we don't necessarily want to. A lot of times it's because we don't know how to use the tool. We don't know how. Yeah.
Well, I think the best way I could describe that reduction is one of the best ways that you can advocate for yourself, particularly in the current way in which healthcare is practiced in the United States is it's really hard to not be a cog in a wheel, so to speak. And I think the biggest thing that I think doctors can say that they feel burnt out from is a couple of things. One, I feel like they feel inundated,
right,
with the amount of patients that they see, inundated with the amount of documentation that they see. And I think ultimately a lot of them feel like, but I'm doing this, and what's it really doing? What's the outcome, right? You kind of feel like you're chasing your tail. And then you feel like, well, the outcomes are really not mine, right? The outcomes are of the system, right? Because you have so many doctors, you have so many checks and balances, you have so much documentation, and oftentimes you feel like you're actually practicing to document. And I think that turns a lot of people off. Right. Once again, this is not a conversation to turn people off of medicine. It's just kind of talking about the realities that I think we get to. And I'd like to say that the ability to have a certain amount of runway with how much money you have and how much investing you have allows you to kind of detach from the current system and practice medicine at least a fair amount on your terms, right? I don't think anybody's going to be able to practice 100% on their own terms in the United States, but I do think that it allows you to say, hold on, pause. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want A. I don't want B. I don't sign on for C. But maybe I could do A part of the time. I could do B, maybe 70% of the time, and I can do C. Yeah, and I ain't doing C at all. Yeah. You don't want me to be here anymore? Psh, I'm out. I can do X, Y, and Z.
Basically being the architecture or being the architect of your own career. Right. And I think we lose a lot of that. We're not necessarily all architects of our careers. We come in and the career is built for us, right? The career is built for us. And then we kind of, it's kind of like having a dollhouse, right? You see the dollhouse, it's already made. Like, you can't move the walls, right? So you just stick your Barbie in there.
Renee and her examples.
Exactly. You put your Barbie doll in there, and that's it. She can only move but so much in the house, right? So you'd actually have to create your own dollhouse, or you'd have to break down the existing dollhouse in order for it to be whatever it is you want it to be. But, how do you break down the entire, American healthcare system? You can't. So what people do is they kind of carve their way in, into medicine to be the architects of their own careers.
Yeah, but it's interesting. People say, well, why are you getting into medicine? But you see this in others. People within the tech world, they do this all the time. Like, they are working with, any of those, the Facebook, the Apple, the Netflix, the Googles. They work for a significant period of time or however long, and then they go and they start their own startup. Right. They go and get money on their own and venture capital, and they do things on their own terms. This happens in all other professions. It's just that we find out what's going on, the scoop of everything, while we're in our late 20s or 30s. And they've already made 2 or 3 lateral or maybe vertical moves already and stuff. So, but I think in general, investing is foreign to most docs, though.
I would agree.
Did you know about investing when you were a resident?
So I knew. So
you knew you should invest.
I knew about investing. I think everybody knows about investing, right? I don't think people understand investing. So I knew about investing, but I didn't really understand what investing was. Like, I always made the word investing and risky synonymous, right? Like, if you invest, it's risky, right? Like, you're going to, potentially lose all of your money.
You think about the movie Wall Street.
Yeah, I think about things like that, right?
Show that big cell phone from Wall Street, 1988, Alfred. Please put that on the screen right now. When, what's his name? Michael Douglas is rocking that big. Is it Michael or Kirk? Michael Douglas, right?
Is it Michael?
Yeah, I think it's Michael Douglas.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, and he's rocking that big, thick cell phone, and it's a gecko and stuff. I agree with you. It's risky. That's what people think.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, investment means, it's risky. So, and I never really thought about investment in terms of retirement, right? Like, retirement and investment were like, those things weren't even necessarily related. When I thought about people saving for retirement, I thought people actually put money away for retirement. Like, that's what I thought.
Oh, they put in a savings account.
Yeah, they just put in a savings account. They put it, in a wherever, in their mattress or whatever. Like, I didn't understand that concept for a long time. So, now obviously I have a different understanding of it. But yeah, like, investing to me was just kind of like,
Yeah, I was pretty similar. Same thing. Risky. But for me, my dad lost his job a couple of times with investing, or at least what happened with the stock market. So I had a really emotional relationship with it. So I kind of shied away from that. But I think things have changed a lot now, where I kind of have realized that the key is to be a long-term investor. And becoming a long-term investor has helped me to really understand the concept of buying and holding. Like, I'm not trying to trade like on the movie Wall Street,
Right.
or like in Boilerplate, or
Right.
any of those things that we see on TV, or even like trading places.
Right.
Buy, sell,
Right.
turn those things back on.
It was the Dukes.
Right.
It was the Dukes.
That's when
$1.
That's when you have like a very volatile relationship with money.
Favorite
right?
movie.
Right? Trading places, right?
Yeah.
So that's the antithesis of like how we invest as the Darkos, right? Like, we buy and hold. We buy stocks. We buy mainly index funds, and we just hold on to them, right? Because we know that overall in the long term, the market is going to continue to grow. It's helped us to stop procrastinating, which was a big deal for me, definitely. And understanding the market is always going to increase, or it's always going to, what's the word I want to use? It's always going to give a certain level of return.
Yeah.
Right? Helps me to stop worrying about the daily changes of what occurs in the market, and says, okay, on a monthly basis, this is how much we're going to put towards it. If the market is up, if the market is down, I really enjoy it, because it doesn't allow me to be in analysis paralysis. I'm always taking action, and I'm always like, okay, I'm improving, or we are improving our financial status on a monthly basis, because we invest in X, we invest in Y.
Right.
And I think overall it helps us, and what I tell residents and young attendings is, helps us to feel more intentional about our career, because we know that we're putting money away either in a brokerage account or putting money away in a retirement, and it helps us to practice knowing that, okay, this is the end goal in sight. Let's like bust it out. Let's do X, Y, and Z with our career. Let's take this turn. Let's take this risk. Let's play it safe here based off of how we are investing.
Right.
That's why I like being a long-term investor,
Right.
because it helps us to do all of those different things. So
Yeah, and again, going back to the concept of the tool, right? Because a lot of times when people start talking about investments, right, the kind of the buzzword becomes, or the goal word becomes money, and it's like, right, but money not for the sake of just being accumulated, money for the sake of being able to use it as a resource to get you other things that you actually need. So like you said, the ability to say no to certain things, the ability to pivot and switch jobs or switch positions, or do things with your family.
if you want to get an MBA, and you may want to take some time off to
Right.
get your MBA.
Exactly. Do things that you actually want to do. Explore other talents and skills that you have.
Work in another country.
Right. Work in another country. And, today actually
Start a podcast.
Start a podcast. So today I was actually driving, and I was listening to your episode with Doc G, with Jordan Grummett. And, you guys were talking about investments, and, talking about investments in the context of, well, exactly what are you investing, or what exactly should you be investing in, right? Especially if you're on your deathbed and you're thinking about, well, what did I invest in, right? That a lot of people aren't necessarily just talking about the money, right? And he talked about, investing in yourself, investing in your family, investing in, all these other attributes that you have about yourself. And for me, investment at this point in time, while I was listening to it, investment to me is synonymous with time. Like, investment in time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it works. It takes time to
Right.
compound.
Is right. Like,
These things compound.
exactly. There is no investment without time, whether it's a short period of time, right? So I was listening also to your episode with Ronnie Shalev.
Yeah.
Right? Where she did kind of the short period of time, and then they refinanced, but it still took time, right? So that short period of time or that long period of time, and oftentimes the long period of time is the thing that you need to invest in, right? That patience, that time in order for things to compound enough for you to see the fruits of the labor of your money.
I agree.
So
listen, I want to give you guys a little bit of a tip. This link will be in the show notes. This is a book that I read. It took me two nights of being on call. I read this book 2 years ago, and it really changed my mind on investing. I was investing in index funds before, but when I really read this book and understood it, by J.L. Collins, the name of this book is called The Simple Path to Wealth. Alfred, if you can put this book up, an image of the book up right here. It is The Simple Path to Wealth, Your Roadmap to Financial Independence in a Rich, Free Life. It's written by J.L. Collins. The link is here. It's in the show notes. You can check it out on Amazon. This book is a quick read, and it really basically delineates why you should be investing in index funds as opposed to investing in individual stocks, which I think causes more people to be really nervous. Like, should I invest all my money in Apple, or invest all my money in Nike, or invest all my money in whatever the company is? And then you're worried about, if there's a recession, am I going to lose all my money? Is it risky? Am I going to lose all my money?
Right.
Or like, I don't understand like the profit and loss. I don't understand how to read all these different things. Well, when you're investing in an index fund, yes, you do need to understand how stocks and bonds and how the market works in general. This book really helps to explain this. So he wrote this book as a series of letters to his daughter. We talked about this a long time ago, but the book basically was a series of letters that he wrote to his daughter. And then eventually he created it and pushed it together and made a book out of it. But it really delineates like how simple it is to just invest in the market with, very, one or two funds that we're talking about, index funds that we're talking about. And I recommend this book to anybody. It's in the show notes. I think this is something that you guys can read. And like I said, it took me 2 nights of being on call consecutively, 2 night shifts, got it done. It was simple and
Not
easy.
bad.
And I knew, boom, this is how we are going to invest all the time. Now, for me, let's jump into reasons not to invest. And I think there's only 2 main reasons why you should not invest. One is you ain't got no bread. That speaks for itself. And
you have no money to invest.
No money to invest. And the second thing is lack of strategy in the stock market. So first thing is you ain't got no bread, right? So this goes without saying, but you should not be investing in the stock market if you have other major things going on that need your attention, right? So if you need money within the next 3 to 5 years, you should not be investing that money in the stock market, right? So rent, mortgage.
Right.
If you want to get a down
If you can't cover your basic needs.
Right. If you want to get a down payment for a house, realistically, if you know you're going to be buying a house in the next 3 to 5 years, when it's time to buy that house and the market, tanks, that 20% that you have is now only 5%, you're going to be pissed.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
we know that happened to a young lady that we know.
Who?
That her boyfriend was like, "Oh, you should put your money." She was saving money for school. Yeah, she was saving money for school, and her boyfriend told her
What
to
if she's going to
invest.
listen to the show? She's going to be like, you talking about me.
Well, we're not talking bad about her, but we're using her story as an example. But she ended up investing the money, and the market crashed.
Yeah.
At that point. And so she lost, I think it was 1/3 or 2/3 of the money. But she needed the money for school right then and there. And so, she was like, oh my God, this is what happened. And, we started talking about, well, if you're investing, you need to understand what people mean by return. And so return isn't always quick. Return is, oftentimes after, a certain period of time. So
should I put money for a wedding ring in there? Should I be in there? Money for a wedding ring?
Yeah, if you need money for a wedding ring, don't put it in the in the stock market. Yeah, if you know you're gonna propose, if you're gonna use that money for something,
If you need it within the next
immediately.
if you need the money in the next 3 to 5 years, do not be putting it in the stock market. I think that's simple and straightforward.
Yeah, exactly.
And
that's something that I even tell my pre-meds, right? Because they are saving money to apply to medical school, take the MCAT, go on interviews. This is not the money that you want to put into the stock market. You're going to need that money, and if that if putting it in the stock market coincides with a crash, you might actually lose your chance of getting into medical school, all because you didn't have enough money to pay for all of the things, all the opportunities that you could have had.
All right. I think we beat that dead horse, or whatever you want to call it, whatever colloquialism you want to say. I think we beat that. Let's move on. So lack of strategy in the stock market. So I put down examples of hearing about an individual stock from a surgeon in the surgeon's lounge. I don't think that occurs anymore.
What do you mean?
Like hearing about, hey, I got this great stock.
Of course people do. What do you mean?
Anymore. I don't think that happens anymore. People don't talk like that anymore.
Of course they do.
Nah, I think that happened like in the 80s and 90s.
Well, whatever. People do.
2000s.
Like, so nobody talks about that. Not one person.
Old folks do. Old docs do.
Okay, well, there are old doctors out there. I mean, you just talked about the 70-year-old.
I definitely know about this. Buying what you hear on social media. Definitely. That can get you in trouble.
So no NFTs?
Well, I didn't say that. I said buying. I didn't. That's not actually what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when people talk about buying this stock or doing this. This is how I got rich.
Oh, I see
doing
what you're
this
saying.
on
I see
social
what
media
you're saying.
or
Yeah.
following people on social media, and you
Or like
really
people
don't.
telling them that they should invest in VTI?
So our strategy, as I mentioned before, is we buy the entire market, right? That's what, for the most part, index funds are. And, we're talking about if you go to Vanguard or if you go to Fidelity, if you go to Charles Schwab Bank, if you go to some other major places, but I think those are the three main places. Invesco, there are these index funds where you are investing in an entire market, and there's like literally thousands of funds or thousands of stocks that are in this fund. And you are saying, okay, I'm going to bet on the entire U.S. market that it's always going to do well. And if one company does bad, it gets removed from that index, and then they put another company in there. So rather than fretting over, well, is Apple going to do well? Or
Right.
what if Tesla does bad and I lose all my money? Well, I invest in Apple, Tesla, Microsoft, Facebook, Google, and any other company that fits in there. And these index funds, they're weighted towards having, a good portion of top heavy with these good and well-performing companies, but also at the same time, they're balanced with some other, companies that are at the bottom also.
Right.
So for us, that's our strategy.
In other words, like the zombie apocalypse would have to hit in order for you to lose all of your money in the entire U.S. market.
Absolutely. So some of the funds that we invest in are VTI. We invest in SCHB, which is the equivalent for Charles Schwab. There's FZROX, which is the equivalent for Fidelity. And then there's multiple other types of index funds. There's funds called QQQ. That's with Invesco. That's mainly in the tech world. So these are types of funds that I like to invest in. And I just buy and I hold. And when the market goes down, I buy more. So what that means is, like, over the last several months, the market has steadily gone down. Some people say that we're in a recession. Obviously not the White House. I don't know what kind of mathematics they're using.
The math ain't mathing.
But basically, you just kind of think about it as, let's say your favorite pair of Jordans, which were always $150, are now like $99 or $79. You're probably going to buy a whole bunch of them at that $79.99 price than you are at $150. Think about it like that, right?
Market's on sale.
That's how I look at it. So those are the reasons that I think most people should not invest, which is not many. You ain't got enough money to invest, and you don't have a strategy. And our strategy is we buy the entire market. Now, the question is what to invest in. Outside of stocks, outside of, just basically stocks.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times when people think about investing, they only think about the stock market.
Yeah.
And that's really not, the only way to invest. And as a matter of fact, Dr. Bala talked about, her investments that were not in the stock market that were doing so much better than the stock market.
So let's jump into that.
10X.
Yeah, let's jump into that. So she just started investing in real estate properties where she was part of the managing of a real estate. So she would buy a property, and she had a team of a property manager. She had a team of, a maintenance person, and you'd have a tenant will go in there and pay her a certain amount of money. And she was getting a better return on her investment with real estate than she was in the stock market. Right. So for me, I always say the stock market for me is the baseline because I don't have to think about it. put the money in, and just let the money start working on its own. With real estate, you have to do a little bit of some work, right, up front. And then maybe eventually you could be on autopilot later on like you do with stocks. Right. So rental property is a huge thing that you can get involved in if you don't feel like real estate is for you. Or maybe, if you don't feel like stocks are for you. But you could also do stocks and real estate. People do that all the time. We do that. Now, one thing that
diversification.
One thing that you can do is you're like, well, I want to invest in real estate, but I don't want to deal with the day-to-day managing of it. You can get a property manager, or you could just say, I don't want to buy properties. I want to get into something that's called REITs, real estate investment trusts. Basically, what these are they're like stocks, but they're not. So what you do is when you're buying these funds, you're actually buying like these large conglomerates, these large firms that sell like commercial space, that manage office space, that manage, residential spaces, and they get rents. And then what they do is they split the profits among the stockholders or the people who hold it. And that's how you kind of get into real estate without actually having to, quote unquote, fix toilets and all these different things. So a lot of people like that stuff. An example of this would be, and from the Vanguard standpoint, would be VNQ. Right, so VNQ is an index fund that is a REIT that basically does exactly this. It invests in firms that manage properties that collect rents. That's it. Okay. Another thing that people can invest in. So we talked about real estate properties. We talked about REITs. We did an episode with Leaf. The Physician on Fire, where we talked about Series I bonds. Right. Now these are given by the government. So for the most part, they're very low risk. You're going to get your money back. But these are bonds that you purchase, and you're basically giving your money to the government. They are going to do whatever they want to do with it, and then they're going to give it back to you with a certain type of yield on a 6-month or however month basis. The issue is that it's limited to only $10,000 per year. So there's really so much that you can put into that. But with the way how inflation has been going, some people have saying that this has turned out to be a boom over these last several months. Right. The other thing, last but not least, well, I shouldn't even say last but not least, but peer-to-peer lending, it's kind of not what it used to be. So peer-to-peer lending is when you go to a certain platform and you actually sign up and you look at people who need loans and you give money, and they basically take a loan with your money, and they're going to pay you a certain amount
in interest. Interest.
I think like in the early 2010s, 13, 14, 15, 16, like these were the rage. People were doing really well with them. But I think the whole market has really parsed down to really only a few firms here and there. One of them is called Prosper. But I think the yields that people were getting from lending money to other people is not like what it used to be. And I think the market has shrunk a lot. So I don't know if people are going to see an appreciable amount from that, but at least that is something else to consider. So, you got stocks, and then you got all these other things. So once again, we got real estate property that you can get. You can get REITs, right? Which are
REITs. Are REITs the same or like comparable to syndications?
Right. So REITs are actually something that is traded on the stock market. Okay. Right? Whereas syndications are like they're not on the stock market.
Right. They're just properties.
Right. They're like this huge conglomerate that you buy into. Right. And then with that money, all of this money, they purchase this one big real estate property.
Right. Like an apartment complex, for example.
Exactly. Okay. So that's the difference right there. A syndication is something with Ronnie Shalev. That's an episode that you guys should check out. That's another thing that you can invest in if you're just like, hey, I'm not into stocks, or I want to do something more than that. So you see what's next?
What?
Things to stay away from. But before we get into that real quick, let's quickly talk about St. John's Associates. So for mainly orthopedic surgeons as well as other specialties that are out there, we are teaming up with St. John's Associates. I keep saying St. John's, but St. John Associates, which is amazing staffing firm, recruitment firm that helps doctors, empowers doctors to find jobs, to find opportunities that I think put them in a driver's seat.
Yeah. And I think that, so for much of this series, we've been actually talking about St. John Associates. But, part of making sure that your money is right is making sure that your job is right. Okay. And maximizing not just the amount of money that you're making, but maximizing all of the things that you need to do in order to make that money. So, working with St. John Associates, they work with all specialties, but their big forte is with orthos. But I would say that, the big thing for us that we've been pushing is that they work on contingency. That's number one. So you don't have to pay them unless there is a match for a job. And then the other is that they don't shop your CV around, right? And they pride themselves on that. And they've been in business for over 30 years now, and they do not shop your CV around, which I think, again, is a very, very big part of how you make money, how you're able to negotiate the money that you would get for a specific job.
Yeah, so that happened to me when I first started. I mentioned this multiple times where, a certain locums company shopped my CV around without me knowing. And, you possibly could get blocked out of certain jobs. You could get possibly blocked out of your dream job.
Right.
Because without you knowing, said company may have sent your CV to a hospital to kind of lock you in. And what I mean by that is if your CV gets presented to a hospital and the hospital looks at that CV, whoever presented them to them, that's who you have to go through.
Right.
Right. So if you're not working with that company anymore, or maybe you got a better deal with another company, you can't go through that other company. Whoever presents you first is the company that you have to go with. And that's why it's such a big deal to not have your CV shopped around.
Yeah.
And I hope that's not a big issue nowadays, but it definitely was an issue.
Yeah.
5, 7, 10 years ago, and definitely earlier than that. So
yeah. I mean, I think any reputable company, is not going to do something like that, right? So certainly being in business for 30 some odd years, I mean, they've got a track record of doing really well with that. So, if you're interested, we suggest you go to St. John Associates. Check them out at stjohnjobs.com/docs. So stjohnjobs.com/DOCS. Check them out today and see if you can get yourself a little job with some cash.
links are in the show notes, guys. All right, so listen, let's jump into things that you should stay away from. And I think that part of the issue is
so investments you should not do. Is this what we're doing?
Risky investments. I think risky investments are things that you hear about on Instagram, and Instagram advertisements, or Instagram, like some of these influencers, like they talk about things that are very like enticing and makes you want to let me do this and stuff. But I think the biggest thing for me that I'm like, yo, I don't know, man. I think you got to stay away from this. I don't know. And I'm probably going to get lit up by this. But I think
Instagram coming for you.
I think crypto at this
TikTok
moment.
coming for you.
Crypto's like, yo, I don't know, man. So I'm not going to lie. I own crypto.
You were all about crypto for a minute.
I didn't say I was all about crypto. I just had someone on talking about crypto.
Nah, he's all about crypto.
I wasn't a crypto fanatic.
I'm gonna be the crypto king. Yo, if I had even 12 Bitcoin, I would do this. I'd buy a whole country.
I did try to get a hospital to pay us in crypto.
What?
No, I'm lying. I didn't do all that.
Boy, I know you didn't.
But I don't know, like crypto right now at this point. So listen, the way how I invested in it was
exactly. Yeah, we invested. I invested.
Boss, we sick?
Yeah, no. No, we ain't sick. No. No.
All right, so the way how I invested it is if you had $1, literally 99 cents would go and be invested in a traditional index funds. And for every cent, that's how I was doing it.
Was 1%.
For every cent
yes.
was invested in crypto. And the reason I keep saying we. The reason why I did that was, look, for me,
you see how this is?
if I lose, if it goes down to nothing, it's only 1 cent, right? I still got 99 cents.
Yeah, okay, well, it's actually not $1, Nee. It's more than $1, so it's not 1 cent.
But that's how, for every dollar that
I understand
we invest.
that.
So I don't understand what you're saying.
What I'm saying is that if you invest 1% of a whole lot of money, it's not 1 cent anymore.
What about 1% times?
No, let's
1%
listen.
for
Listen.
365
I ain't
days.
gonna have Alfred putting the math signs on my face no more, okay? We're not doing that.
So I don't know. So obviously, with crypto, it's tanked a little bit, and I think a lot of it is based off of speculation. There's some things that people are talking about. It's the new wave. I have no clue, and I think people right now who are talking up, like, nobody knows what's going on with NFTs. Nobody knows what's going on with the copyrights of NFTs. Jay-Z is suing Dame Dash. Dame Dash is suing Jay-Z because they're trying to make a portion of reasonable doubt on NFTs. Nobody knows what's going on. So if you need to invest in crypto, my advice is to take that approach and just say, hey, look, for every
1%.
1% of your dollar goes into crypto, so that if it does well, you don't feel like you missed out, and if it does bad, you don't feel like you lost all of your money, right?
Did you see the episode of Grand Crew when they invested in?
You know what I'm saying? Like, right? Like 1 minute it's
like,
great.
"Ah!" And
The
then
next minute you
they're
down.
like, ah.
And that's the thing I don't understand is, like, how can you get into something where you're paying for something? Like, when Tesla got into it, I knew Tesla, like, I just knew this did not make sense. Like, why on earth would you pay for a Tesla with something that is worth possibly $37,000 one day, or even that same day, and then the next minute, just like on Grand Crew, is worth like $12,000. How does this work for Tesla versus how does this work for the person who used to own the Bitcoin? Somebody's gonna be mad at the end of the day, right? I don't know. I don't get it. So I'm not saying that it's a farce. I don't think that it's a scam, but it's just way too risky right now, I think.
It's too risky.
And I think, for the new age people, for those who are in college, medical school, and so forth, I can see where they're just like, well, like, that makes sense for me to do that. But I don't know. Because
Why would it make sense for?
Because I think younger people are more likely to take risks, right?
Okay.
They're more like it's like people using TikTok, right? Like, I heard that TikTok is like, it's literally like, it's changing the way how, like, Instagram is almost done, right? Instagram is almost done. Like, if you ain't on TikTok, then, like, you ain't on it. You ain't on it. People are checking out restaurants and using TikTok to check out. Like, I don't even know how that works, but they're searching for restaurants and seeing if a restaurant is going to fit them based off of how it does on TikTok, which I think is fascinating. I guess I didn't know that TikTok had geotags on it, so that you can tell exactly where you are, or type in an area, and then you can find a restaurant, you can see the food, or you can see what people put on it and go from there. So TikTok is where it's at. Whereas for us, Instagram or Twitter or what have you is more traditional. So same thing with crypto. Some people may be like, hey, like, I can make crypto work for me better than someone who is older or someone who's more traditional. That's why I'm saying that.
Right.
So
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Bitcoin definitely has had its ups and downs. I'm glad it's only 1% that you invested.
we, us, right? We are us. Like,
Can you tell us
all of us, right?
where we can find
there's
some
no you and I in it.
paste?
Right.
Use your vowels.
Bring that Martin Lawrence back. Bring 1992, 93, 94 Martin Lawrence back, please.
Martin.
Please.
Martin, yo.
So what other things do you consider risky? So I don't consider this to be risky, but I do think that it's not for. I think it's not for the majority of people, and that's whole life insurance. I think I think investing in whole life insurance, particularly if you are younger, particularly if you have a lot of student loan debt, particularly if you're in a situation where you really don't need that type of insurance. If you get sold that can be a place where you're losing money, where you can do better off with doing things with your money than putting in a whole life.
So I'm gonna say that I've been learning a little bit more about whole life insurance, because I'm like, why does this thing exist? It can't just exist to give people commissions. Like, it has to exist for another reason, right? Remember when we used to be like, oh, all debt is bad, and then we found out, like, oh, actually, all debt is not bad.
You
Depends.
found out that wasn't
Anyway,
me.
yes,
That was not me.
Anyway,
You found out all debt was bad.
Whatever. Just like we invested in Bitcoin. So, we found out that that all debt was not necessarily bad. It all is in how you utilize the debt and for what purpose.
Right.
And so I've been, reading a little bit more, seeing how people are using whole life insurance. I'm not so convinced that it's that bad. Like, I don't think that it's that bad anymore. I think we have not optimized the use of whole life insurance. And there are a number of reasons that people buy whole life insurance. Actually, Ronnie Shalev mentioned on that last episode, 306 or something like that?
I don't remember.
But she talked about, using life insurance to buy real estate properties. We talked about that. We had I forget the company that came on, and they talked about using whole life insurance, again, to buy properties. I've been reading about whole life insurance for the purpose of creating, family banks and, doing trust and things like that. And we'll save that maybe for the 11th money trap.
I do think the caveat is the way in which it's sold to residents.
Yes, right.
Let's not confuse them.
Right.
The way in which it's sold to residents, the way in which it's sold to young attendings.
Yes.
Like, I think they have no business being sold those type of products.
Yes.
Those type of whole life products are not the same type of whole life products that you are talking about.
Or the use of them are not, right?
Right. It's not the use. Hold on. Let me finish it. It's not the same thing. So I think it's really important for them to, because if you say that, then they may buy a product that they definitely don't need at this point when they have a bunch of debt and all these different things. So I think it's really important to clarify that there's multiple types of whole life insurance plans, and you can educate yourself on it. But the generic whole life plan that they try to push to you as you are a resident, or maybe as in your first year or second year as an attending, that's not the same whole life plan that we're talking about.
But that's what I'm saying. There are different, not just different uses, but different types of whole life insurance
I get
plans,
that.
right? And
that.
so, if you're buying whole life insurance just for the sake, right? If you're young, healthy, have no issues, and you have no dependents that have any issues at all, then I would say no. Like, a whole life insurance plan just for the sake of leaving something for your family is probably not the best use of your money. But if you educate yourself on the different types of whole life insurance plans and figure out a very specific use for that outside of just leaving money for your family, if you die, then I just want people to know.
I think that's what people do, though. I think that's what really wealthy people do. Is they have a whole life plan that they can leave for people, but that's like option 10.
Right.
There's multiple options that they're doing before that, and then they have this one little bit.
Your average,
and some people may use that to give to a school, or they may use it to give to
So, but I'm just saying that your average person probably does not need a whole life insurance plan. But there are uses of a whole life insurance plan.
I think we're talking in circles now.
Well, we are talking in circles because you won't let me finish talking.
But how much longer are you gonna say the point though? You said
I gotta say the point until I'm finished. Until somebody don't interrupt me. Well, I already said what I had to say.
Thank you. Do you see what I'm saying? So for the sake of the pod, guys, what we are saying is that
you just don't like whole life insurance.
There's some risk. I didn't say that.
Yes, you did. You say that all the time.
I didn't say that. I say that.
What? You always say, do not buy whole life insurance.
Well, that was earlier on and stuff, right?
Oh, please.
I'm talking about residents who are going through the process right now. But listen, guys.
Right.
All I'm saying is that there are some risky investments out there. Some of them you may see on Instagram. Some of them you may see on social media. Some of them may be presented to you as probably someone who's saying, hey, this is a way to invest. And they may say that they're a financial advisor when they're really an insurance salesman and so forth. So just be careful.
Be careful.
Just be careful of all those different things. Check out that book. Is there any other investments that you can think of?
Yes. One that I think is very popular is MLS, right? Multi-level sales.
What's that?
Right.
Talk to me about that.
Multi-level
sales.
Amway?
Amway?
Well, I don't know. I'm not going to name a specific company.
Well, you think they're going to sue us?
Huh?
You think they're going to sue us or something?
You never know. But I'm not going to name a very specific company, but multi-level sales where basically people, tell you that they're selling this product, and it usually looks like a pyramid, right? A pyramid scheme where essentially you make more money by bringing people on rather than actually selling the product, right? So they say, oh, you use this product, whatever. And actually, you're not so much selling the product more than you are bringing more people underneath you to be able to sell that product.
Yeah, multi-level marketing.
Yeah, you'll see MLS or MLM.
Yeah.
So I would say, just beware of those. Because at first they kind of look good, especially if the product is something that you think, oh, wow, people would like this thing. But it's usually not about the product.
Oof.
So.
Well, listen, guys, I didn't know that this episode was going to go this long, but,
Well, you talked a lot in the beginning, so.
I did talk a lot?
Yeah.
I'm going to talk some more, actually, because I'm bringing the sign out back. That is a section or a session where we talk about things that we think are important that you may want to check out, that we think are dope. So for me, what I want to sign out is a song or an artist called Thames. So real quick, lately I've been rarely not able to listen to the radio, but because I don't know why. I was just listening to Hot 97. I was also listening to Power 105 and Thames, which is a Nigerian singer. She has this song called Free Mind, and it's playing like crazy on the radio right now, but it came out about a year ago. I love it. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm an R&B head. Great song. R&B vibes are amazing on the song. The acoustics are great. Backgrounds are amazing. Vocals are great on the song. But it also talks a little bit about mental health, which I think is very apropos for everybody at this moment. And I wish I had discovered this song earlier. But, life is what it is. So if you're looking for a really good listen, I definitely would recommend Thames, Free Mind. It's a great, great song. Anything, I know I kind of threw this up on you, but anything you want to sign out at all?
Dracarys.
Whackness, man. Whackness.
Dracarys.
Whackness.
House of the Dragon.
Whackness.
Oh my God, it's on.
So you finished the first episode?
I finished the first episode. It was good.
I don't get this whole
Dracarys.
Game of Thrones.
Listen, don't make me Dracarys you.
I don't understand.
Dracarys. Go, Alfred.
Anybody who watches Game of Thrones, I don't understand why you want to do so much work trying to enjoy a show. For me, it's like doing a physics equation.
No, it's
so
not.
much work trying to understand this whole concept of Game of Thrones. Like, why do you guys like this show? Why do you want to do so much work when you watch the show?
It's not a lot of work.
Literally,
no, it's not.
The first 4 seasons, you have to memorize. Like, you have to have like a vision board, like a memory board of, oh, who's this person? Who's this person?
No,
who's this person?
It's like physics. They all, no.
Like, hold on a second. With physics, I remember like every day, like if you skipped a day in physics, like that was it. Like you ain't gonna understand nothing, right? And it's the same thing with
no, it's not.
With House. What is it? What's the name of the damn show? Game of Thrones. Like if you didn't if it was so much memorization to understand all of these different characters.
And
then I remember everybody's like, oh yeah, like I know you got to remember all these characters, but just wait till season 19 is gonna get good. So wait, not only do I have to do all this work, but I also gotta wait till season 19 before the show gets good.
No,
like, come on, I don't understand why you guys like this show.
First of all,
this
it's
show
not
is
19
whack.
seasons.
The show's corny, and that's why you got the ending that you guys got. You deserve that. That show is whack, man.
Whatever.
I don't know why y'all like that show.
The show was great.
How did it end?
It didn't end well. But the show itself was great. There are
Did I sound triggered?
Anyway, there are plenty of shows that are really great but have bad endings. I mean...
Yeah, but there's also shows that make you have to do a lot of work to understand it. And that's ridiculous. Like, I think Game of Thrones has way too many characters.
It really...
And,
no.
like, you could literally get rid of half of the characters because half of them are of no consequence whatsoever.
No, actually, that's not true. You didn't watch it, so how would you know?
I got up to season 4.
You didn't get up to season 4.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. I didn't start season 4, but I got up to season 4, and I was like, okay.
You didn't even finish season 3.
I took like a month off because I was busy.
You didn't even finish season 3.
Did I need to? Because it was like all this stuff, like the dragon person and Bert and Ernie. I was like, what's going on here? There's too many people on this damn show. Too much work.
It wasn't too much work. Anyway.
It was like a family tree that you had to keep. Oh, wait, hold on. Who are they talking about? Oh, that person. And he's related to this person.
Yeah,
and then this
because
person's
it's
Oh,
explained
word?
to you as you go along.
Oh, word?
Like that's
Okay.
because you're
Okay.
trying to figure it out. You are trying to figure it out like in the moment when you don't have to. You're doing work that you know what you are? I'm gonna tell you what you are. You're one of my pre-meds who doesn't listen when I say, like, you don't need to understand the entire passage of the MCAT in order to answer the question. But you want to sit there and you want to study while you're sitting there taking the MCAT. It's like, why are you trying to learn on the MCAT? Just read the passage and find the answer. You don't need to understand. You don't need to recite. Nobody's going to test you after the MCAT. Just read the passage and answer the questions.
Why are you getting so upset?
Because you just like that. When I tell y'all all the time, like, you do not have to study. You are not there to learn while you're taking the MCAT. I bet you sat there and you were trying to learn while you were on the MCAT.
So, guys, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Docs Outside the Box.
I took your breath away.
She took my breath away. I'm going to take a lozenge. Obviously, my voice is cracking. But listen, thank you so much for listening to this episode, guys. Remember to fill out the show notes, or excuse me, go to the show notes and fill out the survey with In Crowd. We're super excited about that. And we want to thank everybody who is watching on YouTube. Thanks to the OGs that be listening, as well as people who have known us since med school, as well as from our other jobs. We don't be talking about y'all. But we do appreciate y'all listening to Docs Outside the Box.
Don't
y'all.
forget to go to the website, drneedarko.com.
That's right. All right, y'all. We will catch you guys on the next episode. Hopefully, Renee will not be so angry with her
You were screaming.
game of corniness, game of physics, thrones, whatever it is. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Dracarys!
Peace. They're not sponsoring the show. Thank you.